It seems like almost every single day there's a new AI tool being released. And honestly, just trying to keep up can feel like a full-time job. So today we're going to cut through all that noise and perform a practical utility audit on some of the latest developments. Everything from AI that runs completely offline on your device to browsers that might just start to think for themselves. Our goal here is pretty simple. We need to figure out which of these new tools are actually useful and which are just hype. Let's begin the audit. With so much coming out so fast, it is incredibly difficult to know what's really worth paying attention to. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to filter through the latest updates and see what actually works, what doesn't, and most importantly, why it matters to you. Okay, first up for review, we're looking at a tool that makes a pretty bold claim that it can automatically create marketing materials for any brand just by looking at its website. It's a big promise, so let's see how it actually holds up. The core concept here is something the creators are calling business DNA. You feed it a website and the tool scans everything it can to figure out that brand's unique style. We're talking specific colors, fonts, the kinds of images it uses, even the tone of voice. This DNA then becomes the blueprint for every single thing it generates. Now, what's significant here is the latest update. Before, this tool could only produce static images. But now, they've added a fourth step, the ability to take those static designs and turn them into short, animated videos. So we put it to the test, and the results, they were definitely a mixed bag. On one hand, some of the animated videos actually looked pretty great with surprisingly coherent lighting physics. But on the other hand, we saw outputs where the text was just a total mess, words overlapping in a way that just looked sloppy and unprofessional. It's also worth noting there seems to be some kind of hidden limit on how many videos you can generate, which isn't mentioned anywhere. So what's the bottom line on this one? The tool is definitely functional, especially for quickly generating a bunch of design concepts. But it is far from perfect. You will absolutely need to review and most likely tweak everything it creates, especially those new video animations. All right, let's move on to our next subject, which is something completely different but equally interesting, AI that runs directly on your phone or your computer, with absolutely zero need for an internet connection. This is what's known as on-device or local inference. So what can you actually do with this offline AI? Well, it's really a full suite of tools. You can chat with it to get answers, you can ask it to analyze a picture, you can have it transcribe an audio file for you, and you can even get help rewriting or summarizing text. And all of that happens without sending a single piece of your data to the cloud. Here's a perfect example of its current limitations. We gave it this holiday photo, and it correctly identified all the big stuff, the stuffed toy, the Christmas tree, the presents. No problem. But then it completely whiffed on the dog, confidently but incorrectly identifying it as a dachshund. So it gets the overall scene, but those smaller, more specific details can still trip it up. But there's a pretty big catch. To have all this AI power right there in your pocket, you have to pay a price. And that price is storage space. The core model for these features takes up a massive 3.39 gigabytes. That is a serious chunk of space on your phone or your laptop. So the trade-off here is crystal clear. On one hand, you get incredible speed and total privacy because nothing ever leaves your device. But in exchange, you have to sacrifice a big piece of your hard drive. And on top of that, you can't just go download it. Access right now is locked down to a very small group of beta testers. So what's our take? Well, the potential for a powerful private AI that lives entirely on your device is huge. It really is. But for right now, its actual real-world utility is being held back by that massive storage requirement and the simple fact that most people can't even get their hands on it yet. And that brings us to our final subject, and this one is definitely the most forward-looking of the bunch. This is a concept that could completely reshape how we use the internet itself, the Agentic Browser. So what in the world is an agentic browser? Well, think of it like a browser that acts as an autonomous assistant. So instead of you having to search 10 different sites, you could just give it a complex command like plan a 5-day trip to Mexico City for under $2,000, and it would, in theory, do all the research and booking for you. This entire concept is built on two big ideas. The first is that agentic planning we just talked about. The second is something called generative tabs. And the idea here is that the browser could take a static, boring web page, like a list of search results, and just transform it on the fly into a completely interactive, usable app. And we should be clear, the goal here is absolutely massive. This isn't about making small, incremental improvements. This is about fundamentally changing our relationship with the web, moving from passively consuming information to actively and dynamically interacting with it. Now for the major reality check. We can't actually tell you how well any of this works, because, well, none of it really exists for us to test yet. This is all still theoretical. You can sign up for a waitlist to get updates, but for now, it's just a concept, not a tool you can actually use. So, after auditing these three very different approaches to the future of AI, what have we actually learned? What's the big picture that emerges from all this? Well, there's a very clear pattern here. Whether it's the automated designer that still needs a human touch, or the powerful offline AI that eats up all your storage, or the futuristic browser that's still just an idea, it's a constant story of promise versus reality. These tools are incredibly powerful, but they all come with significant limitations. Some of them are obvious, and some of them are hidden. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question to consider. When you look at these different paths forward, the immediate but imperfect automation, the private but costly local processing, or the transformative but theoretical agentic web, which one do you think represents the most significant leap forward in actual utility? Which of these futures are you betting on?